So no longer CTO and IT guys or
Go
whatever.
figure it out.
It kind of hits everyone, which again is that middle majority.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And I do think, we are seeing, at least in the conversations that I was mentioning before, I'm not having those conversations with the CTOs, the CIOs, it's folks who lead a team, that are producing a lot of work, big teams, small teams. It's folks who are some at that middle management, executive level that they're just trying to navigate. Like, what do I do? What should I even be asking? And, executives are getting more involved. And some of our clients, we are seeing that AI is starting to be embedded as like a strategy, and folks are seeing that need for urgency with this change. And in my experience in these conversations and seeing it come to life, it's really pairing that vision from the executives, which you may have a say in that, you may not have a say in it, but what is that vision, and that it's tied to your culture and your values to truly be adopted properly.
Yeah. I hear you. It's taking it beyond like there are the CEOs out there who say like, oh, we need an AI strategy. Great. But what does that, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, that's a big bridge to,
and is it a strategy
or a
even?
big gap to bridge. And I agree. It should be more like you should have a business strategy already. So like use that as your anchor and look at kind of how can AI enable that, accelerate it, your culture. Are you even like an innovative player in your field, or what are your values? Is it to be innovative and to be moving faster than your competitors, or is there that risk appetite that is required? And I think from a like culture perspective, there's also, or I don't know if it's culture or just kind of human nature, really, like the hesitation is also still there, right? And has become a lot around like replacing jobs or changing jobs. And they hit people really hard. Like personally, it's kind of in the foundational universal human needs. Like, will I be able to take care of my family if I lose my job?
Yep.
Will I still have value in this society? Who am I if all of that, what I loved doing, is now being done by AI? So those are true concerns that we can also not like forego. So curious what you're seeing around you. Like we already talked a little bit about the questions that people ask, customers, peers, clients. But what are some great examples as to like how to adapt it, in how to align it with your business strategy, with your culture?
I immediately come to a few of our clients, which I won't be too revealing, but there's an organization we work with that does professional services, let's say across the country. And I think in the professional services, it's fairly regulated. And it's interesting that their senior team said, like, we have a real opportunity here.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity. There wasn't a mandate of something, but it was like, there is an opportunity here to better deliver on our very purpose-driven mission and better deliver for our clients. They weren't admitting they knew what it was, but let's go figure it out, and created this like safe space for their team, various people across the country, to start to experiment a little bit, poke around, looking. They created a few little working committees, which was very in line with their culture, and started to poke around, came across some roadblocks pretty quickly and addressed those risks around security and where the servers had to be located. That mattered. But it was really that balance of like setting a vision or direction or communicating there's an opportunity and giving that permission to step into this territory, especially in I wouldn't say they're regulated, but there's a lot of considerations on the work that they do. And then there was this culture of experimentation that started to bubble up from the ground up, and use cases, and then people saying, oh, this is great, it saved this, and I was able, and then, oh, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
But there's this piece in the middle that started to form around guardrails, ways of working, those new norms forming, but also a commitment to upskilling.
Right.
And realizing where their team was on the adoption curve, even just generationally speaking, they had folks that were older, like ourselves included. It's not like they were a bunch of, yes, I know we're older now, like Gen Zs. I don't even know if alphas are in the workplace yet. That there was an upskilling, and they were willing to commit to invest in that development to upskill and train their team. And it's really come together beautifully. Like people take, at least the bits that I've seen, like true ownership over in their day-to-day, their involvement and bettering their work and their team's work and sharing. Yeah.
So I think there are a couple of components in there of, well, first of all, acknowledging that there is an opportunity, seeing the opportunity from a business perspective, creating the guardrails. So, and then the culture of experimentation, I always kind of translate that into like, you're given a sandbox, right? Like it has clear boundaries, but aside from that, you can do whatever you want. There's the bottom up component in it, I think. So it's not a like, and this is what we're going to do with AI, but more so like, here are some guardrails, go at it, have at it. And then it creates this sharing culture almost naturally, right?
And I will say, like, we're a smaller organization, so recognize our ability to be agile and nimble is a bit easier. The organization I described is probably a medium-sized organization, a little bit more agility and speed. And then we've worked with large ones that it's clearly that vision's been set, and now people are like, it's a big change, right?
Yeah.
To bring thousands of people along
on that.
Yeah. A big change.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be like, oh, do these things. And it's so easy. Like there's a lot of pressure and weight that comes with that otherwise.
Yeah. I think what you mentioned around the willingness to invest and upskill and train people, I think is a shift that we see across the board. The research that I referenced earlier from GBK and Wharton also showed that more money is being invested in AI, but not just in tech or tools. Mostly, actually, and that's the main shift over the last couple of months, is that the investment is going to training, onboarding.
So when you look at like dollars spent by an organization, there's this tip that's happened from investing
from tools
in technology
or tech.
to the people. Oh, cool. That's nice to hear.
And I think that's an early sign of that, or maybe not even an early sign, but a sign of that narrative changing from fear of AI replacing and taking all of our jobs to repositioning it as a transition.
Well, the alternative of everyone being laid off creates a way bigger problem. So maybe future episode. And then I can't talk about that. I couldn't even start to enter that realm universe. Of conversation yet.
Curious for your thoughts on what does that require from us as leaders, like in terms of skills? Is that, and also kind of referencing our like human-centric leadership potentially, like what are some of those skills, like it feels like curation, influencing, facilitation are some of the skills that could become even more valuable in this world where we're navigating AI. How you look at leadership?
Yeah, it's funny as we've been talking in the back of my head, I've been thinking about our human-centered leadership episode and kind of holding that balance of empathy and accountability, right? So, how do you create a culture that has a bit of a safe space to experiment and share and meet people where they're at and realize, understand where they're on the curve and kind of give space for everybody to come along. But also there's an accountability. You have to deliver value to your clients, your services, depending on where you are, your industry, the sector, the government, the world, you have to respect that responsibility that you have. So there's definitely balancing that. But I do think, as a leader, some of those skill sets is first being curious, being really curious about what this could do, what are the possibilities, having that open mind. And being willing to admit when you don't know everything. I do think, I mentioned empathy, and I think that's a big piece of meeting people where they're at on this curve. Both people on your team, but also your clients and how that all comes together. But this tipping point on upskilling, like I think there's a big capacity building piece. As a leader, how do you facilitate that? How do you guide yourself, your team? Like, and this is quite be a bit vulnerable, like what I think about a lot of kind of bringing these all together of this empathy and accountability, being curious, but like at the end of the day, we have been hired to do the best that we possibly can for our clients. What role does AI play in that? Are we playing too much and futzing and wasting time when that could have been spent? So it's all of those things. But I really think there's an empathy piece, a curiosity piece, creating that sandbox to experiment, but also being accountable and respecting the responsibility that you do have.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point of vulnerability, I think, and that's for me personally too, there is definitely a shift of like being the person who always has all the answers and knows everything, to much more like, I think all leaders need to shift or will be better off if they shift to more of that facilitation. Like it's going to be too much, too overwhelming, too big for anyone to know it all. So it is that vulnerability, to your point of like admitting what you don't know, but facilitating the group through it.
And maybe there's someone with you in your team, like in our case, who has a bit of a passion and leans more into this space that can help be a bit of a lead for you and doesn't have to be you.
Yeah, no, that's fair.